I would say one thing, that that I believe that people in Ohio, even now, they have no idea about my background. They don't know that my father carried mail on his back. They don't know I came from a blue-collar union town. They don't know it was hard scrabble. That was never told in my campaign. And frankly, in a lot of ways, I wish it had been. Looking back, that'd be one thing I would change. Tell them who I am. But they're learning. You know, little by little, they're learning. You know, I said for so many years that, you know, my father carried mail on his back, and I came, you know, my town of McKees Rocks, I don't know if there were any Republicans that lived there. I really don't. I don't know of any. Okay, I mean, everybody that lived in my town was in a union. I mean, my dad was in the mailman's union. The people that lived down the street were in the coke and chemical union. They were in the steel mill. You know, I want people to know more about that. Okay, and that's something that I need to tell a better story on. I wish I'd done better at that.
Governor, is issue 2 bigger than Senate Bill 5 at this point? A lot of people are calling it a referendum on you and your policies as governor. What do you think about that?
I don't.
Is it a referendum on you?
It's a referendum. What's on the ballot is a referendum on the issue. I mean, you might try to make it that, but it's a, you know, that's not the way I see it. And look, you know, every state, every governmental entity is going to face this sooner or later. I have not read the book yet, Boomerang, but I ordered it. And I think in Boomerang, written by Michael Lewis, they talk about a city in California where there's going to be one guy working in the city, and all he's going to be doing is writing checks to all the retirees. I mean, we just saw Akron put on a watch, not a watch, but you know, the alert. The city of Mansfield's been on fiscal watch. I mean, you know, the fact of the matter is the ability to control costs are really important for local communities. And, you know, I mean, that's what's on the ballot. But you'll interpret it any way you want to. How do I feel about it? I feel that I've been out there making a case for it, telling people why we need it, and we'll see what happens. And we'll move on. One way or the other. A lot to do in Ohio.
It seems like, you know, with the redistricting thing,
Let me get this a little hotter. Yeah. Yeah, the redistricting.
You know, that Ohio is becoming a law governed by referendums.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I have to think about that. Hey, would you take my phone, please, just in case somebody's calling me on it. You know, I haven't really drawn a conclusion on that. I don't know. I'll have more to say about it once I... See, I might have said something 6 months ago. I'm telling you now I want to think about it. See, that's the... And, you know, you don't want to lose that spontaneity, and you're never going to lose it with me. You know, I get, you know, there's a lot of people that come out when I, you know, when I go out and speak. I mean, I was in Akron. They had, you know, one of the biggest crowds I've ever had. I think people want to know. They know there's so much going on in the state. They know that, and they kind of want to know about it. And some of that comes from not just my spontaneity, but, you know, people, I'm just kind of a regular guy out here, you know. I don't guard everything I say. I'd be a little bit more careful because I have a responsibility. My wife has told me that. Not repeated times, but she has told me that a couple times. And but I can't lose that. That's who I am. But when it comes to this direct issue, I mean, it's something we all have to think about, and I haven't drawn a conclusion. You know, I've always believed in the people's right to have a say on important matters. And, you know, one thing I will tell you is I frankly, looking back, I don't like the way the casino stuff got done. Oh, by the way, you know, we got $220 million. Remember, nobody thought that could happen either. That'll come in handy. But we got that money because I thought it was more important to get that. And that was a process that didn't work all that well. But people have a right, and we'll see. I mean, I'm not thinking about any legislation to tell people they shouldn't have a right. We'll see where this goes over time.
So did you, when Senate Bill 5 first was conceived or, you know, came up, did you foresee this?
Oh yeah, we all thought there'd be some kind of a referendum on it. Yeah, there was talk about that. Yes. You know, look, it gets to the, you know, look, let me just put it to you this way. If you don't pay anything for your health care or your pension, and somebody says you need to pay something for it, you're not going to like that. It's okay. And I actually understand why people are upset, concerned. I mean, because I grew up among people who were, you know, connected to unions and all that.
Back up to what you said a minute ago when he asked about doing something over again, and you mentioned the staging or whatever on Senate Bill 5. What could you expand on that? What would you have done differently?
Well, I mean, I just think you have to let people know a little bit more about what you're trying to achieve. That's all.
The polling on this, if you believe polling, seems to indicate that more people oppose it than support it, but the same polling seems to indicate that people support parts of this bill. What do you make of that? Do you think people just are unaware of...
I think there's a lot of confusion about the bill. I do. I think there's also confusion of, do I vote yes or no? And, you know, I mean, I think there's confusion about that. I think that I think there are teachers who have been told that if this bill passes, they're going to lose their pensions and all. They've been frightened, and they don't really know who to listen to. But I think most people say, hey, you know, I'm paying for some of my health care, and first of all, they don't even have a pension. They have a 401k. And they're like, well, wait a minute, you're trying to... Some people... I tell you a funny story. I was up near Lake Erie with my family, and I asked this mayor of this little town up there, what do your police and fire pay for their pension, their health care and their retirement? She said, well, they pay zero. And there was a lady sitting there, and she looked at me, she said, well, if they don't pay, who does? It's just that it's a long education process, frankly. And I think we could have done better up front in educating people a little bit better. You know, I was very new in my term, and you know, you're asking me what I would have done better. I would have done better there.
Police and Fire released a study yesterday indicating that their members across the state have been making concessions. They're more than willing to make concessions in difficult economic times. Why isn't that enough?
Well, you know, why? Did you check how many levies are on the ballots? I mean, look, I'm all for them making concessions, and I will tell you this. Senate Bill 5 in Issue 2 has changed Ohio. It has, because people are now more aware of these costs. And as a result, we are seeing progress. And look, I compliment the safety forces, the teachers that say, look, it's not a bottomless pit here on money. I mean, there's not a money tree. And the ones that step up and say, I want to be part of this solution, I'm thrilled with that. And there are a lot of them like that. I mean, all the people that are in this, it's not all self-interest. Some of them, like I say, are afraid. They're afraid of what will happen. But, you know, I think the Dispatch said it pretty well, didn't they, when they said something about most of the campaign against it wasn't true? Something, it's not exactly what they said, but quote, close to it. Hate to disappoint you, but I don't read a lot of papers. But anyway, well, that's a good thing, and that's all we need. That's all we were trying to do is give tools to local people to control their costs. And again, there are settlements that are coming that are in the better interests of the strength of the communities. I'm thrilled with that. But I will tell you that this has changed our culture already. We're already winning in what we're trying to do, which is to make Ohio more fertile for job creation. We haven't done enough, but you know, I'm glad to hear you say that and tell them that that's great, and we appreciate it as Ohioans.
I'll keep going. What's going on with the death penalty in Ohio? And are we going to see more delays and executions that are scheduled?
It's court related, and you know, there have been 2 cases where I didn't think we should go forward with it. One where there was doubt about who the trigger man was. They get life in prison. And the second one was, if you read the story of the life that this last guy had, executing him, in some ways, in my mind, would have been that he had had a life that just, you know, I want to be careful how I say it. It didn't feel right to me. This man had been through hell and back, and he's still going to have life in prison, but I thought there was a reason to accept that. This is an issue that is obviously extremely tough. But I'm comfortable that when people, cause executions like we've seen in some cases, a guy taking a gun and just shooting somebody in the head and killing him, I believe the death penalty is appropriate. But we look at every case. The reason we have a holdup now is because apparently this court order for some time now, Judge Frost, I think, is the one that said that that all the proper procedures weren't being. When I heard that, I said, wait, we're not doing anything until the court is satisfied. So we'll see where that leads.
Do you anticipate having to delay another execution? You've already delayed two.
I'm not going to anticipate anything today with you on that.
You mentioned sentencing reform as one.
Yeah.
You see why you're